Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we're going to go over the Death Metal Garage or DMG Vanquish compatible buggy. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back. As I said, my name is Jake, and today we're going to cover this awesome truck. So we're going to dive into the buggy. We're going to talk about what you get with the buggy, what compatibility you can do with the buggy, and what I've chosen to do with it. The cool thing is that you can follow the link below in the description, go on to Cuts 3D, and you can download all of the printed accessories that I've done, and you can do them yourself at home as long as you have a 3D printer. If you don't have a 3D printer, shoot us an email in the link below, and we can potentially work something out to print the parts and ship them to you. Without further ado, let's dive into the truck. And there we have it, folks. Here is the Death Metal Garage DMG Jerry Justice built beautiful rig buggy thing. What do we have here? Well, as you can see, we do have a buggy. This would be classified as a moon buggy. It's basically a single seat buggy that you would see out on the trails, whether you're in Utah or Idaho or Colorado, or pick a place that has off-road trails, and this is something that you would see out there. Let's just start with the cage. So if you reach out to Death Metal Garage, there'll be a link in the description below for their Facebook page. You can inquire about purchasing a Vanquish compatible configuration, which is what this is. Now when you get it, you will receive the cage, which is the black portion here. You'll receive the body panels, which you can see here, red, white, and blue. You'll receive a battery door tray, and you'll receive a dash. This is the dash that comes with it. You can put it in here, where it comes in here. And then there's a front tray that sits right up here like this, so you can put your electronics and things of that nature in there. I'm obviously not using these because reasons that I'll get into in a little bit. Jerry designed this buggy to work with the Vanquish VFD skid. You see here we have the Vanquish VFD twin transmission and skid in it. You can actually use the VRD skid and transmission here as well. The major advantage of using the VFD twin is having rear dig, or front dig if you will, so the rear tires lock up and the front wheels spin, so you can dig the front in. From the factory, the VFD twin comes with that and the selectable overdrive, where you can go from 6.5% overdrive in the front to 46% overdrive in the front. Meaning that when selectable overdrive is off, front wheels turn at 6.5% faster than the rear ones. And then when selectable overdrive is engaged, the front wheels will turn 46% faster than the rear ones. However, Colorado Adventure Club has created a replacement part for the front overdrive gear. They have changed it to a selectable dig, meaning that you lock up the front and you dig the rear, so only the rear turns. Now there's two options that you can get with the selectable front overdrive, and that is maintaining 6.5% overdrive or 46% overdrive. You have to choose one or the other. Personally, I like in four-wheel steer buggies, I would prefer, especially if we're using front and rear dig, I would prefer closer to 0% overdrive, meaning a 50-50 split, then I would prefer a high overdrive for the front. We're running the 6.5% overdrive gear in this buggy here, meaning that the front tires are obviously going to spin 6.5% faster. That is really the benefit of this buggy, is it does allow you to have mechanical dig front and rear while using the Vanquish VFD transmission, the VFD twin. Now again, you can not have that, and we'll just say you want to use front dig only, meaning that the rear tires lock up and the front ones spin. You can use the regular VFD transmission with a dig unit attached to it, and it should still work. Now it's going to be really tight inside the cab area utilizing that, so this truck was specifically designed to use the VFD twin with the front and rear dig. I'm very happy with how it's turned out. It looks really good. It performs really good. One other thing, as we move into the truck, the axles are agnostic. You can run whatever axles you want in here. You can run like what I'm doing and run these H10 axles, which look realistic or scale, if you will. You can run F10s, whether they're straights or portals. You can run capper axles. The sky's the limit. There is no real requirement to run Vanquish axles. I honestly prefer them personally because I feel they're the best axle you can purchase for the money. But there are some really good options out there. You can get the super shafties, SSDs, you can get deluxe axles. I mean, there's a lot of good options. We are running the H10 axles, like I said. These have the aluminum housings on them, and we're waiting on the aluminum servo mounts and knuckles to come out so we can replace those as well. We actually took all of this out of our optic and donated all of the optic stuff to this buggy for the time being because that's what we had readily available. We're running NSDRC 650 servos. The reason for that is I wanted a low profile servo because the servo does sit on top of the axle, as you can see, which is kind of annoying. I would have preferred Vanquish created the mount to where you could either mount it upright like this or underneath. I removed the wheel. I'm going to go off on a tangent here just real quick. Again, the reason that I'm using the low profile servo is because the servo does have to be pointed up. Now, what I would love to see is Vanquish make a mount to essentially flip the servo and run it upside down. Now, the reason that I say that you can't do that right now is because the mount itself, this portion here, actually hits the front of the servo. So you would have to trim a lot of this out or trim a lot of the back part out and angle the servo. So instead of the servo sitting flat like this, it's going to be sitting like this. And that's going to be potentially problematic in terms of removing a lot of that material there, which you don't want to do. End of rant, moving on. We're using the Vanquish Battleborn wheels with the golden or GR8 scale hardware. I don't like the scale hardware with this color combination. I think I'm going to go with the stainless hardware. I am going to leave these wheels together the way they are. I am just going to purchase stainless hardware and put them on the other set of wheels that I have. We're using the stock 90mm Vanquish shocks, and I'm having really good luck with this 5K silicone diff fluid for the shock oil. Now, it seems a little strange that I would use that, but if you look at how the buggy actions, like the shock actions there, or the stroke of the shock, if you will, it works really good, or functions really well in my mind. And I have this oil or fluid in other heavier trucks like this, and it really performs much better than something like 60 to 80 weight. It keeps the bounce out of it, like it's just not as bouncy, and it maintains suspension like a 1-to-1 would. That's why I'm going to continue to run it. We have incision drive shafts or metal drive shafts. They function just fine. This is really, like I said, the optic takeout, so we're using optic links. Again, if you didn't watch the optic video, in order to make the optic four-wheel steer, you will need to run the Traxxas 5525 links on the upper rear in order the front axle to go on the rear, so making it four-wheel steer. There is a radiator in here, and again, all of these printed items will be in Cuts 3D in the link below. We have a Toyota motor, and there will be a link for that. I was able to use this off of Maker World, so huge shout out to the original designer of this, and that link will be in the description below. I scaled the motor 33%. I printed out the necessary components to make it look like a motor because there was a lot more components with it that you don't need to print. I also added a propane tank for fuel, and then I created a mount for that. The only thing you'll need to do with the motor, I did modify the motor block itself or engine block itself and added a mount to it so you could screw it here. Now, this buggy is not the only buggy this motor mount will fit. I think this is a pretty universal mount. You can use these on the Speedy chassis and potentially other ones as well. Radiator, motor, fuel, all of that in the link below. From DMG, you get this battery cover here, and it screws down to these tabs with regular 3mm screws. I like quick access to the battery. You never know what's going to happen. You're out on the trail, maybe the battery gets punctured somehow. Very unlikely, but I like the ability to quickly remove the battery if needed. What I did was I added a grub screw on the front side. When the lid is clamped down, it won't move. And then on the rear, I added a 3mm screw coming up and then I put a 3mm nut on it, and that functions perfectly fine. Now for the screwable nut, this is printed, again, in the description below. What you do is you print it up to layer like 57 or something, and you pause the print, you put another nut in it, and then resume the print. So this actually has a 3mm nut in it, preventing the plastic from stripping out. So it is metal on metal. We're using Reef's Micro 99 servos for the functioning dig units, both in the front and the rear. We're using a battery box that I created. Side panel's been removed. It's not actually metal. It's some sort of really lightweight plastic. Hopefully it's durable. No real word on that yet because we haven't used it. Now, there's a couple of things that we're going to notice in here. The battery tray actually screws to these points here, which are printed, and then those points screw to the skid plate. There's one in the rear and one in the front. As you can see, my ESC is actually sitting under the battery tray in this empty area. This battery tray doesn't look very good because the printer decided to go crazy. I don't know what happened there. I am running 2 BECs, one to power the front servo, one to power the rear servo. We're running a 40 amp Rhino ESC, and the 3 amp BEC on the ESC powers the shift servos and the receiver. For the interior, we have a floor pan, which is separate from the seat and the shift controls. So we have 2 levers in here. One will control, we'll just say front dig, one controls rear dig. Again, they're just for looks, they're not actually functional. The rear servos here do all of the work. Now we have a seat that screws to the rear floor, which is in the download for all of this that you can print out. And then finally we have the dash, the printed dash, with a steering column and a steering wheel. Now what's unique about the dash, you can purchase one of these super micro servos from AliExpress, and the link's in the description below, and you can place it in here, print out the steering column and the steering wheel, shove it through there, and now you actually have a functional steering wheel. So this steering wheel turns as I turn the front wheels. Now you're not going to see that now because there's no power to it, obviously, but that is a pretty cool aspect. You will have an animatronics there. If the driver has the ability to move its arms and you glue the arms or whatever to the steering wheel, the arms will actually move with the front wheels. It doesn't turn a whole lot, which is nice. It only turns probably 30 degrees or so in either direction, which will eliminate the driver from getting cross-armed. And that really kind of sums everything up. We're using some splitters for the steering servo, the front steering servo, so that way we can run both the steering wheel servo and the front servo, and then we're using splitters for the BECs. So all we had to do in the splitter is simply remove ground wire or the middle wire that plugs into the receiver to ensure that BECs don't interfere with this BEC. Everything works as it should. There's about, I don't know, 1.5 feet of snow outside here right now, so we haven't really been able to test the Buggy. So that's pretty much the Buggy wrapped up in a nutshell. Extremely pleased with how it's turned out. Extremely happy with the overall design and fabrication of the DMG chassis. It does look like the chassis itself was MIG welded, potentially. These welds are rather large for TIG welding, but everything looks good. I mean, the fit and finish is there. In my mind, this is exactly what you would see on the trail. There you have it, folks. The Death Metal Garage DMG Vanquish compatible Buggy. Highly recommend it. Building it so far, it's been one of the easier buggies that I've built in terms of space and being able to do kind of what you want with it instead of being forced into a very tight space with very limited options. Huge shout out to Jerry for designing and making these buggies. Reach out to him for one. Again, the link's in the description below. As soon as it warms up, and really by warm up I mean gets rid of the snow, it could be 10 degrees outside, but if there's no snow, we're going to take it out, get some footage, and post it. With that being said, huge shout out to the TABO club members. As always, we hope you have a great day.